Gunshots are being traded, some coming, some going. My back window is blown out. My front window is cracked. If it wouldn't have been tinted, it would have probably blown out. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Frank. This is Morals Over Money. This is a video that I think I told the story on live, actually. I'm not 100% sure, or I spoke of it. A lot of people ask me, how did Malo save my life? I told people that literally I owe Malo my life. And people were asking, a lot of people were like, oh, did he save you? Did he give you Narcan or something like that? And I was like, no. It wasn't nothing like that. It wasn't that type of situation. It was a situation where literally he saved my life. He didn't give me no Narcan. I wasn't getting high. He saved my life. If the man wouldn't have done what he did, I would have 100% not be here today. None of y'all would have ever known of me. This channel wouldn't exist. None of y'all would ever know of me. All right, so in the middle of my addiction, I'm not even going to say in the middle, towards the end of my addiction, way that I had supported my addiction and myself was I began to do a lot of robberies, right? So my thinking was always, I'm not going to rob a store, right? I did that type of stuff when I was younger. And I started to realize, if I go rob a store, I might get $1,000. I might get, maybe $2,000. They're going to call the cops 100%. Risk versus reward, it just didn't add up. Prior to me dealing with addiction, I was in the streets and I used to hustle. I made a lot of money selling drugs. First of all, I want to stress this and make this very, very clear. In no forms am I trying to glorify anything that I say in this video, by any means. Y'all know, I'll be the first to say, when we live an illegal life, we end up paying a severe price. So I like to think, that the time that I was out there selling drugs and balling out and had money and cars and women and power and all that stuff, first of all, it was all superficial. If I didn't have the money and I didn't have the power and all the drugs, a lot of people wouldn't have been around me the way they were. The women wouldn't have liked me the way they did. As soon as that stuff went away, so did all that fake love. And I also like to think, I had like maybe a good year, 2-year run of hustling and getting money, having a good time materialistically. That's all it was. Mental health wise, it was horrible because I was always paranoid. I was always worried about the stick-up kids coming after me. I was always worried about somebody trying to get over on me, or the cops watching me, or the feds listening to my phone, all that type of shit. So it was not all it's cracked up to be. Anybody that has ever done anything illegal knows that. We might do something that takes 2 minutes to do, whether it's a robbery, whether it's selling drugs, and then we spend the rest fucking 3 weeks worrying about, damn, am I going to get caught? Did somebody see me? Is somebody going to tell on me? Is that the cops over there? Is that somebody coming to take what I got? That's the way it is. And everybody that I've spoke to throughout my years of being in the streets, of being in jail, of having this channel, usually for every year that we spend in the streets making money and balling out and hustling and having fun and sort of having it our way, we end up spending like 3 or 4 years in the penitentiary. So for every year that we spend in the streets getting money, we usually spend 3 or 4 years in jail. So if we spend 2 years out there getting money, driving around in fancy cars and having jewelry and having it our way, we're going to spend 6, 7 years in jail. That's just the way it is. Look at those odds. Those aren't good at all. I just wanted to stress that before I get into this story. I got the smart idea. I said, you know what? Instead of selling drugs, I'm going to take money. I'm going to take drug dealers' money. That was my new hustle. So I said, instead of selling drugs, I'm going to take the drug dealers' money. Mind you, I knew everybody that sold drugs in the area, and I had connections with them from selling drugs. One thing about me is I always kept a good name. people always like to do business with me, because if I told you I was going to give you your money on Monday, I had your money ready for you the 2 days before, right? If I told you I was going to give you $10,000, I gave you $10,000. I was always a very, very good businessman, where they knew there wasn't no lying about me. I was straight up and down when it came to business, right? So I said, all right, I have this built-in trust with people, right? So at first I started robbing people that I felt did me wrong, right? Let's say if I had a transaction or and all the people that I robbed were the majority of people that I did business with before. If we did business, and if I was supposed to buy something and maybe the weight was off a little bit, right? Or maybe the money count was off a little bit, I kept track of that shit in my head. And I said, okay, I'm going to come back and get you. So that's what I did. I started using all those times that I let slide, and I said, I'm going to come get them now, right? And I'm going to come get them in interest. And that's the way the street shit is. Everybody that's watching this, that's in the streets or been in the streets, know you're relating to this 100%. If somebody made us wait too long, if somebody gave us something and the wait was off or the work was bad, we was like, all right, I'm going to get them. The first opportunity I see, I'm going to get their ass. That's all I did, you know. So I started making a list, and I said, all right, who did me wrong, right? And then I robbed them, you know. Then when that list ran out, right? Because the list of people that did me wrong wasn't very long, to be honest with you. And it wasn't long because I always did good business. It wasn't because people were scared of me. It wasn't because I was smarter than other people. It was just because I did good business. So a lot of times when you do good business, people will do good business back. Not all the time, but a lot of the time they will. The people that I felt did me wrong, you know, I caught up with a couple of them. And a lot of times, too, a lot of those dudes were dead. A lot of them were in jail. A lot of them were strung out. A lot of them moved, you know. So there was a very short list. And when I say short list, I want to see that there might have been, you know, it was less than 10 people that I felt, okay, I can go rob. And mind you, when you're robbing people, 9 times out of 10, you're not doing it by yourself. You're doing it with 1 or 2 people. When you're doing these type of licks, you're going with 1 or 2 people. So if you get $10,000, you got to split that between 2-3 people. That's $3,000 a piece. That goes quick, especially when you got a habit, right? So then after I ran out of people to rob that I felt did me wrong, I started looking for reasons to rob people, right? And y'all gonna know what I'm talking about here too. So if I seen somebody that maybe when I was getting money that I used to look out for, I would go, and I seen they were in a better position than me, I say, yo, let me borrow some money or let me get some work. And a lot of times they'd give it to me. They'd be like, here, go ahead, because that's the same type of person I was, right? And maybe I'd pay them back, maybe I wouldn't. And then they could say no 3 times. The first time they could say yes 3 times, and the first time they said no, I said, I'm coming for you, right? So I started looking for an excuse to do people wrong, to get slimy with people, to rob people, to do all that type of shit, right? I did that to a handful of people. One of the times that I did that, so let me put this setting for you, right? We had an apartment that it was strictly used for this type of situations, right? There wasn't really no furniture in it. It was an apartment that sat on the corner of two streets. The entrance, you would go in on one street. The exit, you would come out on another street. So unless somebody had been in there, they didn't know. You know, you could tell them, yo, wait right here. I'm going to go inside and get the money. And you're out. You come out on the exit is on another street. You didn't know. And I made sure there was literally only a handful of people that had ever been in there. Because I didn't know at the time, the way I was living, I didn't know who I was going to have to rob to live. So I said, all right, I just can't take nobody in that house. Simple as that. Malo was one of the people that I took in that house, right? Malo was always somebody that I knew I could trust. And I just, you know, me and Malo, we always click. From the first time, you know, we met each other, me and Malo just clicked. You know, this is when medical marijuana first started coming to the East Coast. So the pounds of marijuana would come, you know, freeze-dried, sealed up from the West Coast. At the time, it was Philly. This is before there was any medical marijuana on the East Coast. At the time, I think we're maybe like 3,500. They were going for more than that, you know. Like, I think they might have been, to be honest with you, anywhere from like 3,000 to 4,500 or something like that of medical grade marijuana. You know, this is high class bud. This is exotic weed at the time. I had somebody in Philly that I used to do business with. Like I said, let me remind you that my name was good. If I told somebody, yo, bring me 20 pounds over here, they're going to bring them. So that's exactly what I did. I told the person, I said, yo, I need 25 pounds. He was like, all I got is 18. So I said, hold up, let me see. You know, and then when I called him back, he said, hold up, I'm able to round up 22. That's all I got. I said, I need 25 though. He said, nah. He said, all I got is 22. So I said, all right, come through. He picks me up. At the time, I was living in one part of Philly. I had a girlfriend that I was living with in Philly, Cuban girl. I had the person pick me up there. So I was living in one part of Philly. I had dude pick me up a couple blocks from my apartment. I portrayed to him that I lived right in front of where he picked me up. You know, I had a gold Cadillac at the time. I got in his car. So it set the illusion like I needed him. You know what I mean? Because he was my transportation. So he said, yo, you want me to jump in your car? I said, no, we'll just jump in your car. I said, my shit's already parked. So I made pretend I come out of the house. The house was vacant. There was nobody living there. I said, just text me when you're right around the corner. So when he said, yo, I'm right around the corner, I got out of my Cadillac, went up to the house, and made pretend I was coming out. I didn't live there. My car was parked in front of a house I had no connection to. He picks me up. I get in his car. We're driving. I say, yo, you got to work? He had it in the back seat in a big duffel bag. I look in, I count them real quick, pull up to the apartment that I had. You go in one way, you come out the other way. I think I left a phone in his car. So I say, yo, here, I had two phones on me. The disposable phone that I left in the car, I said, here, I'm going to call this so you can listen to everything that's going on just in case if shit goes crazy, you know to come in, right? Mind you, it wasn't going to go crazy because there was nobody to buy the weed. I was gone with that shit. I told him, I said, just listen. So I go in the house, and I'm talking to myself. As I'm making my way through the house to go out, I say, yo, may pretend I'm calling to somebody. I respond like they're telling me, okay, give me a minute. My response was, all right, don't keep me waiting. Hurry up and come down. You know I was here. You know, like, I played it off like they was using the bathroom. Meanwhile, I'm gone. I'm out the other side of the house, in another car, and I'm gone. The Cadillac that I had, that was just the car that I would use to do dirt in. I had another car that I would drive around with, and that was my personal car. I couldn't drive around the city and do dirt in the same car. You know, You just don't do that. People will literally shoot your car up. I leave, right? Go around the block. I see him still sitting there. Mind you, he doesn't know what kind of car I'm in. The car that I'm in is all tinted out. He don't know. I drive past, I see him. I keep it moving. I'm gone. About 10 minutes later, my phone starts blowing up. First, it's coming from a block number. I know who it is. Then it starts coming from his number. I drive past. In my car, I see him still sitting there. I keep on going, park up, and I'm watching his car the whole time. I said, I'm gonna sit here parked up and just watch to see what he does with his car. His car don't leave. He sits there for about a half an hour, 40 minutes, and then 2 other cars show up. One was his brother-in-law, and one was one of their homies. All 3 of these dudes, you know, they were known to be about their business. And I knew this wasn't a situation where I'm gonna take it. There's not gonna be any repercussions. I knew that. I knew this was going to be something that I'm going to take, and there's going to be some repercussions behind it. Hopefully I'm on the giving than the receiving. So they sit there for a little while. I see him go inside the house. When I see him go inside the house, I just leave. Because I said, all right, you know, I already see what it is. They're going to go inside there. They're going to see that the exit is on the other side. They're going to realize, damn, this nigga burnt us. If they wouldn't have went inside the house, they could have thought, yo, maybe they robbed him. Maybe they got him tied up. You know, who knows? This is the type of shit that goes on in that. Long story short, fast forward, 2 weeks later, I'm driving in the Cadillac. And the Cadillac I had left parked. I hadn't drove it for literally like 2 or 3 weeks. My daughter was just about to be born out where I live now. So I left Philly. Whenever I would do dirt, I would leave Philly and I would go back up to where I live now. And I'd stay out there for a couple weeks. But then the money would run out. The drugs would run out. I'd have to go back to Philly and hit another lick. Come back to Philly and I'm driving in the Cadillac. That was my first mistake. I shouldn't even have been driving in the Cadillac. I did it anyway. They end up doing construction. The construction sends me on a detour. The detour sends me through his brother-in-law's block. Summertime, they're out in front of the house. So I go past. As I'm going through the detour, so they look, and they see the car, and you can see where they seen it, and they all looked away real quick, try to not make it obvious that they seen the car. I already knew. I was like, damn, they fucking seen the car. So as soon as I bend the corner, I mash out, speed off. I go from Philly, I go to Bensalem. My sister was living in Bensalem. I stay up in Bensalem for maybe a day or two, something like that. I come back down to Philly. Now they already know, okay, he's around. So they know certain spots. My moves were a little predictable because I had a habit at it. So they sort of knew, might come around here. This is where he used to cop from, or, you know, he has connections with somebody around here. And that's exactly what happened. Driving down the block, y'all know how small Philly streets are. And I see one of them, it goes a little crazy. Shots go off, gunshots are being traded. Some coming, some going. My back window is blown out. My front window is cracked. If it wouldn't have been tinted, it would have probably blown out. They're bussing at my car. At first, when they started shooting, they were on foot, ran up to my car, started shooting. So I mashed on the pedal, drove up, took a left. When I take that left, I start going down the block. I can see that there's a car in the middle of the street blocking. I can't go anywhere, right? So I seen it. As soon as I took the left and got on the block, I seen it all the way at the bottom of the block. So I was like, fuck. Mind you, there's nowhere to go. There's houses on one side, there's cars on the other, and houses there. I can't go anywhere. I can't get on the sidewalk. I can't go around. The only thing I would have been able to do is like fucking drive over the car or push it out. And I knew that wasn't happening. So at first I tried to like drive a little bit slow, thinking, all right, by the time, if I just drive slow enough, then the person who's in that car is gonna just get in the car and move. But if I go stepping on the gas, speeding, they might panic and run outside the car and leave that car there, and then I'm stuck. All right? So I start just cruising down the block. I'm looking in my rear view. Now I see their car coming down in the rear view. So I step on the gas, speed up. Malo had seen and heard the shots. He knew my car. We knew each other. Malo went, jumped in that car, and drove the car off the block, right? So it turns out that the car, the woman who owned it, she just ran in the house real quick. I don't know if she was like dropping off some groceries or went in there real quick. She left the car running, had the keys in there, the door was open. Mind you, it was nice. It was summertime. And she runs in the house, leaves her car running. Little did she know, I'm running from a shootout, and her car is standing blocking my path. So Malo seen what happened. He jumped in the car, moved the car. The people that I was shooting it out with, they weren't any wiser. They just, they couldn't see all that. They didn't know what was going on, thankfully. Because if they would have known what was going on, if they would have known that Malo had moved the car, they would have killed him. No ifs and ands about it. They would have killed Malo, because they would have looked at it like, yo, you helped him get away. Now he could possibly come back and kill us because you helped him get away. You know what I mean? This is the type of shit that we do and deal with and live with. These are the type of consequences that are at play here. So Malo jumped in the car, moved the car. If he wouldn't have done that, they had the drop on me. I was one person. I was stuck in the driver's seat. I wasn't getting out of that car to run. I probably wouldn't have got out. I don't know what I would have done, being honest with you. And there was 3 of them. I might have, I would have been in bad shape. I would have probably, to be honest with you, I would have probably died in my car that day. My car was all shot up, like I said. My back window, the rear view window, the window all the way in the back was blown out. The front one had bullet holes in it, held together just by the tint. The headrest was shot up. Dashboard was shot up. It was a mess. And even after that, I didn't learn. Even after that, that wasn't enough to tell me, yo, you better stop. That wasn't enough, Even after that, I still didn't learn. Unfortunately. Thankfully nobody died in that situation. That's how Malo saved my life. Now y'all sort of understand why every time I would come to Philly, I would make it a point to go check on him first. I would make it a point to make sure he ate. I would make it a point to make sure he had warm clothes on. That at very least he had somewhere to stay. When I go to the hotel, I'd take him with me. So that's how Malo saved my life. So I hope y'all enjoy this. And just remember, this isn't to glorify anything at all. Anything. So I hope y'all have a great night. Remember to be kind, loving, and patient. people was like, yo, thank you for how much you helped Malo. Thank you for how much you helped my father, stuff like that. And they don't realize that that man helped me a lot too. Beside the story I'm gonna get into of him saving my life, Malo also helped me just as much as I help him. Every time I would go and see him, we would have talks, and he'd tell me, yo, don't get comfortable. Don't get comfortable. He said, you see what I'm dealing with? I don't even have a place to shower. He said, I'm lucky if I get a place to sleep. The store he worked at, he was able to sleep in the back room, on some cardboard and shit. He said, I'm lucky for that. So he used to tell me, yo, don't get comfortable. Don't think for a second that this can't happen to you. And he was. What's going on, y'all? Hopefully everybody doing well. Everybody had a good holiday, good Thanksgiving. Got that good turkey, got that good ham. Hope everybody ain't spent too much money on that motherfucking Black Friday shopping, Cyber Monday. There's a video I've been putting on for the past 2 weeks for two different reasons. One, it's been bothering me. It's been weighing heavy on my heart that I wanted to wait until they had the service for Malo. First I said I wanted to speak to his family. Right, and then I spoke to his daughter. I spoke to Malo's ex-wife or wife. I spoke to his son. I messaged his older daughter. So I spoke to all three of his children. They were having a memorial for him in New York the day before Thanksgiving. I was invited. I couldn't make it, unfortunately. With my work schedule, so the day before Thanksgiving in barbershop is literally one of the busiest days of the year. So I couldn't make it, wrote something and sent it just to relay to the family. And I sent my well wishes and my prayers. So I was going to put the video out right after I met with the daughter and his wife. But I know they watch the channel. So I was a little undecided. I said, you know what? Let me just wait until the service is done. Let me just kick back for a week. And then after that, I'll put it out. Right? So I'm going to tell you guys what happened to Malo. First of all, if y'all don't know Malo, look back in the videos. I'm going to link a couple videos in the description. Malo was Malo. He was dope. You know what I mean? Good brother, hard worker. Even throughout his addiction, at his absolute low, Malo was still a hard worker, a caring, loving man. He was a pleasure to be around, right? And one thing I want to say is that Malo, a lot of people was like, yo, thank you for how much you helped Malo. Thank you for how much you helped my father, stuff like that. And they don't realize that that man helped me a lot too. Beside the story I'm going to get into of him saving my life, Malo also helped me just as much as I help him. Every time I would go and see him, we would have talks, and he'd tell me, yo, don't get comfortable. Don't get comfortable. He said, you see what I'm dealing with? I don't even have a place to shower. He said, I'm lucky if I get a place to sleep. The store he worked at, he was able to sleep in the back room, on some cardboard and shit. He said, I'm lucky for that. So he used to tell me, yo, don't get comfortable. Don't think for a second that this can't happen to you. And he wasn't telling me that in any way, but from a caring standpoint, from a loving standpoint, the way that you would tell somebody that you care about and you don't want to see them get too comfortable or mess up. You know what I mean? That's where that was coming from. Malo's son had came and picked him up from Philly to go to Florida in hopes of a change of scenery would help him get clean, right? So Malo had got locked up. He was on a run, from leaving a halfway house or leaving a rehab, which is extremely common. Not only, which is extremely common. They don't really lock you up for that type of stuff. You leave the halfway house, you leave a rehab. They might send you to another one, then they might send you to another one. Then maybe after a couple times they'll lock you up, right? So when Malo's son came to pick him up, they said, you know what? Let's turn yourself in. You'll get locked up. You can go through withdrawal, and then we'll pick you up and take you to Florida, right? So they took Malo to his parole officer, turned him in, and they didn't do nothing. They let him go. Malo was back on the streets, within an hour or two. So I spoke to his son that morning when it happened, and his son said, yo, I'm going to take him. I'm going to take him to Florida. And I was in Philly. I had just seen Malo. He told me, he said, my son and my daughter are on their way over here to see me. He was nervous. He's like, man, he said, look at me. He said, I look like shit. It's probably on one of the lives, to be honest with you. He's like, look at me. I look like shit, And I say, yo, don't worry about that. They don't care what you look like. That's your family. They love you. So his son ended up coming to pick him up, told him, Dad, we're taking you to Florida. You're slowly killing yourself in Kensington. And that's something that Malo knew. Malo knew he was in bad shape. Malo knew that he needed to get out of Kensington. He was slowly killing himself. I'm going to read y'all a quick little letter or a quick little notice. February 12th of 2021 is when Malo's son came. And he's giving me an update. He said, how you doing, brother? He said, just an update on Malo. We're in Philly right now getting him. We're going to stay in a hotel, and we're leaving for Florida 2 a.m. We got all his documents, and his PO terminated his case. He will be going to a rehab in Florida. They'll detox him for 7 to 10 days, then decide if he's going to inpatient or outpatient. So I checked in with him on February 14th, 2 days later. I said, how is he doing, brother? He said, going through his withdrawals, but handling it better than the other time. We just got to Florida 2 hours ago. He's going into the program tomorrow morning. So that was February 15th, 2021. Malo, he went into the program. He got himself together, right? And he got clean. He was clean for a while. So I'll read you some more. This is November 11th. So this is after Malo passed. This is November 11th of this year. So I messaged him and I said, yo, I just heard the news. I'm sorry. He said, hey, brother, just seen your video on YouTube. I appreciate the love. He said, we took him out to Florida in hopes that he was going to get better. He was doing great for a while. He was doing great for a little while. He was eating a lot. He gained a lot of weight. He was starting to look really good. He was picking up little jobs here and there to make money. Unfortunately, he found his way into the wrong crowd again. He started using. We tried getting him to rehabs and shelters again, this time in Florida, and he kept checking himself out. He rathered to stay at a Shell gas station that he worked at. One day he was going across the street and got hit by a BMW. It broke his arm, his leg, and a few ribs, and left him with brain damage. They wanted us to pull the plug on him, But we didn't have it in us because we had faith that he was going to find a way to come back to us. The doctors gave us constant updates that he had no brain activity whatsoever. They had to feed him through a straw, and he couldn't move his body at all. He was just existing in a vegetative state. I recently became his medical proxy, meaning I was authorized to make any decisions regarding his health. I went out to see him recently, and his condition never changed. He was able to blink sometimes to respond to questions, but that's all. It was very inconsistent. I didn't want him to live like this, so I made the decision for them to stop giving him any aggressive treatment and to just keep him comfortable until it was his time. They estimated him to pass within hours of not receiving aggressive treatment. He passed 6 days later. He sends me a picture and he says this is the condition that he was in. Then he sends me a few more pictures and said this is a few months after we took him out of Kensington, before he fell back and got mixed up with the wrong people. Took him to the beach. He was living life. He's going out to eat. He's spending time with his family. He's having a good time. He's living life the way that he should have, right? Malo ended up getting hit by the car. All right, he was walking across the street with a friend, with a family member actually. And they said the car struck him. From what the family said was that it was sort of they said that they were expecting for the driver of the car to be charged. And notice, whenever there's an accident, with a car and a pedestrian, it's always the driver's fault. The pedestrian has the right of way. So even if, somebody walks across the street, we're supposed to be alert and aware enough to know, okay, I got to be on point when I'm driving, right? It's not to say that there's people that don't walk out in the middle of the street. That shit happens. You see it every day in Kensington. Do I think that was the case here? I don't think so. And there's a couple reasons why I say that, right? The family was expecting the man driving the BMW to be charged. They said he was driving at a high rate of speed. And another thing is, he was walking with another person, right? So you might get one person to sort of wander in the street and not paying attention, but you get two, that's a little different. You know what I mean? Which that sort of shows me maybe the person was driving at a high rate of speed. That's why the family thought he was going to be charged. I don't know. I wasn't there. So he existed for a year. He had the car accident was in, I believe, October of last year. And he was in a coma. He was basically on life support until this year. They took him off life support on a Thursday, I believe. And excuse me if I'm, if family is seeing this and my dates or my days are a little mixed up. I don't have the text messages and stuff in front of me, so excuse me. But they said they took him off they took him off 1 week, right? His daughter and his wife went to, his daughter and his daughter's mother went to Florida. They took him off. They said their goodbyes. The daughter told me, she was extremely sad, but she didn't like to see her dad like that. They said his limbs, like his arms and his feet, had sort of locked up and contracted. And they showed me pictures, and you could see like his arms sort of just contracted into his body, and his legs did the same. That they just sort of shriveled up on him from not being used. His daughter, the baby said that, Lucia, she said that, she hopped into bed with him and just cried with him because she didn't like seeing her dad like that. She's like, that's not my dad. I don't want to see my dad like that. I don't want to see him suffering. So they pulled the plug. They left to come back on Sunday to Philly a couple days after pulling the plug, and then that Tuesday is when he passed away. The family, of course, they were all sad, but they all felt as though, the majority of them felt as though the right thing was done. And granted, listen, one thing that everybody knows is when a situation like this occurs, there's going to be family that feel one way. There's going to be family that feels another way. There's going to be some people that say, no, you should have kept them on life support, right? There's going to be people that say, no, you shouldn't have kept them on life support. Who's right and who's wrong? In my opinion, nobody's wrong, right? Nobody's right and nobody's wrong. That's what they wanted for their father. That's what they wanted for their loved one. So who's to say that one person is right, one person is wrong? In my opinion, I don't think nobody's wrong. That's what they wanted. Who's to tell, who's to say that you're wrong for feeling the way you feel, right? So he ended up passing. And that's how Malo passed. I'm going to, show y'all some pictures of him, and y'all see that that's not Malo, man. The condition that he was in was a horrible condition. I know for myself, I've always told my family, listen, if God forbid something ever happens to me, I don't ever want to be a burden on y'all. If it comes a situation where you got to pull the plug, y'all pull that plug. I love y'all. Don't think I'm going to get upset. If the doctors tell you, yo, he's not coming back, you could give me a week or two. Pull that plug. I love y'all. I don't ever want to be a burden to anybody. I don't want to be a burden to Rachel. I don't want to be a burden to my children. I don't want my family to see me in that type of condition. I just don't. I'd rather them go on with the healing process and the grieving process. That's just me. I know there's plenty of other people that feel the exact opposite, right? So that's what happened to Malo. That's how he passed. I'm sorry that I waited for so long to make this video, because I know a lot of y'all cared about him. Listen, when I spoke with his daughter, I was telling his daughter, I say, yo, your father affected people from all over the world. So do me a favor, y'all. In the comments of this video, will you please just tell where you're from, right? You could say R.I.P. Malo and tell me where you're from in the world. So his daughter, she's going to read those comments because she watches the channel. His daughter's going to read those comments, and I told her, I said, I'm going to ask them to do that. And I said, you're going to see that people from all over the world, your dad had an effect on people all over the world. When I told her that, she had a big smile on her face, and she was grateful for that. She said, I knew a little bit, but I didn't know like that. I said, listen, your pop had love from people all over the world, places you don't even know exist, places that I didn't even know existed, people he didn't even know. And that's how dope this channel is. So do me a favor, y'all. Drop a R.I.P. Malo in the comments and tell me where you from. I thank you guys. I love y'all, man. I thank you guys. Malo's daughter is going to watch this video. The youngest one, her name is Lucia. She's 16 years old, and she's awesome. She looked just like him. Just like him. When I went to see her that day, she was strong. She was composed. And I felt like I was looking at Malo with a ponytail. I swear to God. I felt like I was looking at Milo with a ponytail. I was like, oh my God. Looked like he made her by himself, right? Yeah, she was strong. She was strong, man. I would pray that if I was in her shoes, that I could have a fraction of the strength that she showed. So she's an awesome young lady. She's gonna grow into be an awesome woman. I know it. And like I told her, young lady Lucia, you know, you got an uncle. And you got a whole bunch of people that care about you on this channel. You don't even know. You know, just from the impact that your father has made on their lives. So, thank y'all. Remember to be kind, loving, and patient. Drop down in the comments and tell Lucia where y'all from. Alright? Drop down. Say R.I.P. And if y'all from Australia, say Australia. Wherever y'all from, drop that location. I thank you guys. I hope everybody has a great day. And I don't know if I'm catching a little cold or something. Oh, you know what? I was doing some sand that I didn't have a mask on. All right, y'all. Stay kind, loving, and patient. Have a great day. Stay blessed.